It's 8:30.
Right, everybody, welcome back. We are live in living color. It is Sunday night. It's 8:30, and you are tuned in for episode 103 of Podcast PD. We're going to roll the intro and hope you enjoy this episode and be prepared to jump aboard because you are invited to participate. Let's do this. Coming up on episode 103 of Podcast PD, sponsored by Streamyard, we continue the conversation to help new first-year teachers. We're going to share more tips and tricks. Let's start the show. This is Podcast PD, the show that provides you with anytime, anywhere professional development. Our conversations and guests will provide you with the learning you might get in a faculty meeting or on a PD day. Except you're going to have more fun with AJ Bianco, Stacey Lindis, and me, Chris Nessie. Let's start the show. What is up, podcast people? This is episode 103 of Podcast PD. My name is Chris Nessie, at Mr. Nessie on Twitter, and I am joined, as always, by my Podcast PD compadres, Stacey Lindis and Aaron
Judge
Bianco.
We were struggling with a J name. That's awesome, AJ.
I mean, he goes by AJ, so you might as well just let it fly.
That's brilliant.
There you go. How you guys doing?
Doing all right. Doing all right. How about you guys?
I was just telling you guys before the show started. I'm kind of like getting in the zone here for school, and I'm a little nervous. So anxious, nervous, not like nervous, like, oh my God, I'm shaking my boots, but like I'm anxious. I'm excited. I got a lot of things going on this week.
Anxious or eager? I had a principal tell me not to use anxious in a letter to families because it has a more negative connotation.
Okay. So eager, excited. I don't know. I got a lot of things like on my mind, ready to roll. So like we're doing things for new teachers, but like I'm still basically a new, hate the word, administrator.
Why do you hate the word?
It sounds
what would you rather call yourself?
I don't know. What is Fonz? Fonz calls me something. Educator, admeducator. I don't know what he called me. Fonz, if you're out there, put it in the chat.
Do you remember when it was cool to say lead learner?
Lead learner. I don't like
learner.
that. I don't like that. I'm not the lead learner. I'm like the assistant lead learner.
Chief Education Officer.
No, administrator just sounds too official. I don't feel like I'm official.
Well, we've hung out with you, and yeah, you're right. You are not all that official.
I think you're official.
True that, yo.
All right. Well, we've got a great episode in store for you tonight, today, whenever you're listening. It really doesn't matter, just so long as A, you listen, and B, you share this podcast with somebody else. If you get value from this conversation, grab that new teacher's phone, subscribe them to the podcast, show them this episode, show them what is up. If you're joining in the chat, hello and welcome. Hello to the Fonz.
Hey.
He is my EdTech life, the host. He's on the Education Podcast Network. Executive producer Stephanie Scrocky is in the house. Hello to you, Stephanie.
Woo-woo.
Great to have you here. And this is a continuation of episode 102, which was tips and tricks for first-year educator, part 1. We called that audible towards the end of the episode. And in that episode, we talked about time management, classroom management, email management. And if you haven't listened to that episode or you want to check out the show notes and the highlights, go to podcastpd.com/102. But if you're subscribed, you've already done that. You've listened to it and you are waiting with bated ears, because we can't smell your breath. This is a podcast, to listen to this conversation. But before we jump in, Stacey, as we get started here with the brand new school year, last year in the spring, you got us, well, me, to kind of do podcast PD stuff on the Clubhouse app. So this, AJ, tune out for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Stacey, do you envision a return to Clubhouse, doing the Monday morning motivation and the Friday reflection? What are you thinking here in the fall?
Yeah, I'm thinking, yeah. So here in New Jersey, we have a couple of like crazy, like first week things going on, but I'm thinking of starting even on Wednesday, September 1st, which would be the day this drops. So I should probably get on that. And because that's our first day back. And it would just be like one of those spur of the moment, not typical schedule. But I would like to get back to it. I miss those conversations. I miss learning and growing with people. Um, it's not to say I didn't enjoy my time off, but yeah, I think I'm definitely going to get back into it. Let's see how, see if it still has the same legs that it had last year. We had a great group of educators that was part of that. And that was really good for me. Stephanie was always a super helpful voice, a super helpful co-navigator in that, since I am literally driving to school every day when we're doing that. So she was a good person to kind of just put into the navigator wheel. But yeah, how about you? Are you going back to Clubhouse for anything, Chris?
I am. I still dabble. I listen to a lot of content over the summer, and the reason I brought it up is because I too enjoyed those conversations when I could, participate and be a part of that. So very much looking forward to that. So I'll be right there with you, and hopefully I can do a better job of, co-piloting with you. So
Well, your co-piloting duties were difficult once you started going back in, and I get that.
yeah. So you're thinking September 1st,
And then
first.
going back to your typical Monday, Friday. But
So September 1st, September 3rd, and then let's rock on.
no, because I don't
6th.
have school on September 3rd. That's what I'm saying. Like the beginning of the year is weird. So it's not even going to be September 1st and then 3rd, because I don't know about you guys, but I only report for the 1st and 2nd. And then we don't report again until the 8th, which is a Wednesday. So
Now I'm a little different. I report for the 2nd and 3rd, and I'm off the 6th and the 7th.
right.
Yeah.
Now we
So
have
that'll
the
be fun.
longer weekend.
Yeah. That's cool.
We have the longest weekend. Well, I guess not, because we actually go the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and then we don't go back to the 9th.
Oh, so you get both days of Yom Kippur. Is it Yom Kippur or Rosh Hashanah? I always get that.
I believe it's Rosh Hashanah first.
Yeah.
Rosh Hashanah. Yeah. Cool.
We get both holidays this year.
So really, if you're listening to this and you're like, all right, well, how do I find them on Clubhouse? Well, connect with Stacey and I on Clubhouse. We have a podcast PD club. So just ask us and we can send you an invite and you can be a part of that. And then you will get notified when Stacey schedules those Clubhouse sessions. So we're very excited. Also joining in again, people are very excited here in the chat. We got Mel A checking in, and Tim Belmont is around. I saw his name pop up. Good evening to Tim.
Yeah.
So the chat will certainly take on a life of its own while we have this conversation. All right. We talked behind the scenes, and AJ, you wanted to lead the charge on hitting up a lot of these social media points that came up earlier, because let's be honest, we shortchanged the great people who contributed by tweeting or Instagramming, or I know Stacey put it out on Facebook with some advice for first year teachers. So while we do have an agenda for this episode, we want to talk about relationships with colleagues, admin, students, parents, and key building personnel. And we will certainly get to that. But why don't we jump off with some of the contributions of those who shared with us, AJ? So pick one. Where do you want to go?
Yeah, I think since it kind of goes with one of the themes that we have here when we talk about relationships with key stakeholders, we have Shay Smith at EDU Long Game. Says, get to know your site or district technology specialist. They can make your life in the classroom much easier. I think that's pretty key. I think when we talk about relationships, what we have here, we talk about, key building personnel as custodians, our secretaries, administrative assistants, however you want to refer to them. But the technology specialist is another person who you need to know, because, you get those illegal sites that you get blocked from. So get to know these people.
Yeah.
And Shay's been on the show before. Shay came on this time last year to talk about just being in person and being hybrid. I forget what episode that was.
But they're right.
He's right. Yeah.
I actually mentioned that in the last episode of the House of Ed Tech with tech tips to start the school year. First and foremost, get to know your tech people. And I'll share it here as well. If you see them in the hallway, don't stop them and ask them a long-winded question that you need help with right now. Because if they're in the hallway, he or she is probably on their way to solve somebody else's problem. So be kind to your tech people, especially in the present day. Because
use the system that they have in place. Use the system they have in place. We have tech tickets. Like I ask the question first just to see if it's a thing that I can handle myself. And then if I can't, I'm like, all right, I'll put in a tech ticket. See you later. Because they are very busy folks, and there is definitely a queue that they are working with.
All right, Stacey, why don't you pick next?
All right. So my good friend Kristen Edwards said, I wish someone had told me that I should join professional organizations and Twitter for support. I also wish that I understood what knowledge I would gain with experience. During their first year, you don't know what you don't know, but you will get there in time. And I think that, Kristen's essentially saying, be gracious with yourself. And then also, make sure that you're reaching out to area experts, right? So if you're a math teacher, join your math organization. If you're an ELA teacher, join your ELA organizations and learn from those people who've probably been at it a little bit longer and have a lot to share. And then there's always Twitter and the other socials.
When I read this tweet from Kristen, what really stood out to me was you're not alone in this. And this is to even the veteran teacher, right? As we come back, we go in our classrooms and you're not really on an island anymore, other than like when you close the door and you're with your kids, so if you're not comfortable maybe getting out there on social media and jumping into teacher Twitter or teacher Instagram or teacher TikTok or teacher fill in the social network blank, get to know the people in your grade level or in your department or on your floor or the person across the hall from you or to the room to the left and the right. And, I know that can be a challenge for, maybe the introverted individual, but, reach out your hand. I guess, you don't reach your hand anymore, but be willing to say hello to people and get to know people, right? And kind of put yourself out there a little bit and get to know the people closest to you within 6 feet or outside. You guys know what I'm saying.
And if you're the experienced teacher, don't be afraid to go up and introduce yourself and be that guide. Because even when I came back, all the years of experience that I had being back in a building that was new to me in a grade level that was new, I'll never forget those two teachers who introduced themselves while I was setting up my classroom. And then the two teachers who went out of their way to introduce themselves while we were sitting in our first faculty meeting. Those are my truest, dearest friends now. And I think part of it is just because they made the first overture and I was just feeling a little overwhelmed. So ease someone else into it if you are experienced. Hey, Jay, I cut you off. What were you going to say?
No, it's okay. I apologize for stepping on you. One of the things there that I thought was huge was the professional organizations. I think a lot of young teachers don't think about the professional organizations, or they don't want to put money into a professional organization. I think it's really important to kind of dig into those organizations that fit your need and ask your school to shell out some money. That's your PD. And I think that's really important, because even if you're not on Twitter, if you're starting to get on Twitter, those organizations have tremendous articles. They have huge following. You can kind of learn from the people who are part of that. So I think for middle school, getting in charge with, or put apart with, was it AMLE? Social Association for Middle Level Education is big. Get involved in ASCD. I find your local organization for ASCD. I think those are huge, and those are very, very underrated. A lot of people don't like to take advantage of this. They look for those big scale organizations that might not be helpful, but those local organizations are going to be tremendous to your growth.
Yeah, I think even speaking of local, I'm pretty sure that a year-long school subscription to Najamly, the New Jersey AMLA, is $100, and your entire staff is part of that organization for that $100
right.
that your district would shell out.
Right, $100 there. ASCD is $89 for the year. So, you can ask your school for $200. They spend it in other ways.
If the school did it, it's $100 for the entire building.
Right, I'm saying. So put it out there. It might be $25 for an individual membership for if you're from New Jersey to do in Jamley.
I was waiting for that, AJ.
I can't say it. I like No Jamley better.
The tweet that I'm going to go to, this one is from Kathy Iwanicki, at Kathy Iwanicki on Twitter. And she says, listen more. Usually there's a reason behind why things are done the way they are. Sometimes it is for a good reason. So you're a first year teacher. You're in a new career. You're at the beginning of your career. You're in a school. See how things are done. You know, you shouldn't be walking in and thinking, I just got my, 4 or 5 year teaching degree. I know all about education. I'll be the first to say I've been doing this for more than a decade. I still have no idea what I'm doing at times. So nobody can really ever walk into a school and say, I've got this all figured out. I know exactly what's going on. So especially if you're new, listen, ask questions. And again, that goes back to that relationship piece. So kind of get the lay of the land, meet the people, 2 eyes, 1 mouth, that whole thing, I guess, right?
Yep. All right, I can go next. Lisa Dabb says to reach out to parents via phone, email, or an app and make positive connections with them long before you need to contact them due to an issue with your child. And then she adds, set up a private digital community on Facebook or Instagram where parents can see and share in the day-to-day activities. And her final idea is to seek out a mentor that can be that sounding board and guide on the side, and that this is critical. So we talked about mentorship last week in the last episode. But I love the idea of, I used to call them good news phone calls, right? And I know we have a few friends on Twitter who are part of that community too. Just making sure that your parents know that you know their child beyond them being like a nudge, and that your first phone call or first interaction in general should not be, Robbie did this, Richie did that, Chris and AJ were doing this on the playground, right? It should be like, I really noticed that Chris really likes to communicate with people. We're going to really harness that energy, and maybe he's going to do a podcast, right? And so like parents might recognize that Chris takes over the conversation at dinner, and yeah, like, oh, my kid's teacher knows him, and that's a really good thing. And then when Chris has some difficulty keeping the words in, they already know that you've recognized that, and then it's a little bit easier to brainstorm, like, what are you doing at home so that he's not taking over the conversation at dinner? Maybe I can do that in the classroom and reinforce some of the messaging that you're taking on at home.
No, you're absolutely right. Positive phone calls are great. I mean, when we think about what Lisa said there with the use of Facebook or Instagram, for a new teacher, that could be something different. So check with your school administration before you
your
start.
District policy.
Yeah, check your district policy. Don't just jump into because you see other people doing Instagram and Facebook. You don't have to. That could be completely private to you. I would check with your admin, check with your parents for permission before you do anything else. So it's a great idea and it is beneficial. Just make sure you follow the correct policies. But those phone calls home, those are huge. That builds trust. That builds relationships. That's gonna make your year go a long way with the kids and with the families. It's a huge win.
I think that goes back also to, isn't that in the Harry Wong book? The first days of school. I remember when I was an undergrad and, when I was going through this teacher prep journey, call all your kids in the first like 2 or 3 days. Well, if I was doing that, I actually just got my rosters for the year. I'm starting the year off with 164 students. I might make those phone calls over like 2 weeks.
2 months.
But again, chip away. I mean, again, if you're an elementary school teacher and, you've got your, 25 to 30 kids, you can certainly, make those phone calls and break it down. But,
I've done that before. It's great. Like you call home and, you're like, Hi, this is Mrs. Lindis. Is Chris there? Can I speak to him, please? Like, I had so much fun doing that, and the kids remember it. And like, I remember where I was when I did it. I remember who I spoke to, what we talked about, whether or not their backpacks were packed, and if they had their school clothes picked out, what they were most excited for. Because I made sure to make all those phone calls the day before to let them know how excited I was. And maybe I'll do that this year. That could be fun.
That could be fun. You let us know how that goes. I'm not gonna do that too, for 164 young people.
But I have 19, Chris. I have 19 this year. That's my roster right now.
I don't have a class with 19 in it.
I'm so excited. I've never had a class so small.
Well, that goes with, I was texting with some of my colleagues, and they said that the population of my building increased by 150 to 200. So I think my high school has 2,300 students, give or take a kid.
Wow.
But
That's a lot.
So,
And I think, AJ, to your point about not necessarily creating that Facebook group or those smaller groups, another way to get around that would be to use something that is a little bit more recognized as being a collaboration space for parents, like a class Remind, right? So using something like Remind to contact your parents in an easy way. AJ or Chris, I see your face. What's that face?
well, I mean, since you brought up Remind, let me just let everybody who's watching and listening to this know that we use Remind here on Podcast PD. So if you want to join our texting community, you can text at Podcast PD to 81010, and we will not spam you. We respect you, but we send out reminders, little questions. We want to build community. So right here as podcasters, we're using the very same tool. So that's Remind.
There you go.
All right. I'm looking at some of these tweets we got in here, and I'm going to go to, we'll go back to Ruth. Ruth shared something in the last episode. So Ruth Repliglay, at Ruth Repliglay on Twitter. And she says, gather good ideas. I listen to podcasts, yay Ruth, while I'm doing housework at night. And I listen to audiobooks while I walk to and from school. So my takeaway there is go out and get the good ideas. So we mentioned joining your professional organizations in your content area, or maybe for your grade level. So certainly do that. But then, you know, there are great blogs and websites and podcasts like PodcastPD and House of Ed Tech. Those are great podcasts that you should be listening to if you're an educator. We've got some other educator podcasters kind of hanging out in our audience. You want to go and check out My Ed Tech Life. Tim KV hasn't said hello yet, but we might be on his big screen TV right now, as maybe he's watching us. Hello, Tim, if you are. Go check out Teachers on Fire. Go to the Education Podcast Network. Go to Edutopia. Stacey and AJ, what are some of the blogs and websites that you go to stay in the know in this profession?
I'm kind of like Ruth there. I'm more about podcasts and books at this point, but I also like her division, like, right. So the cleaning and that kind of work is at home. That's podcast listening. The to and from school is audiobooks. Yeah, that's kind of, I have that division as well. On the way to school, it's all information, and then on the way home, it's entertainment with the audio. But
Yeah,
I don't. Go ahead.
Nope. Go ahead. Finish it up.
I don't really listen, or I don't really seek out a lot of blogs anymore. I am more for like seeking out the very specific tool for what I'm looking for. So new math curriculum. We have a new math, not curriculum, but new math resources. So I will be going specifically to that site. So knowing how to find those is also incredibly helpful.
I like that you made that distinction, that you said that there are new math resources, because math hasn't changed. So just new resources to teach math. That's good.
AJ, what were you going to say?
Yeah, no, just to answer that question, we talked about podcasts and blogs. There's just so many things out there. I don't even know. Like, I feel bad just kind of picking some and not others. So, you know, I do listen to a variety of different podcasts that follow teaching practices or leadership practices. Blogs, you know, Fonz has got me into Medium. So looking at Medium, I've found some great blogs there, his being one of them. So Medium, you can actually use that, and you can kind of put in your interest. So if your interest is mathematics or technology or education, it kind of sets up some beautiful articles and blogs for you. So I've used that to kind of harness in, and then we talk about our organizations, right? If we have people writing for the professional organizations, there's people there. And, I'll give a shout out. Teach Better team has some good bloggers who are podcasters as well. Matthew Joseph with his X Factor has some good blogs there that, he's put out some good stuff. So find what works for you, and it doesn't matter who the people are. Just, you want to read something, read it.
I also think you don't want to discount like teacher Instagram or teacher TikTok, because I know a lot of people are getting great value there. I am jumping into a little bit of teacher Instagram. I still refuse to get a TikTok account, so I wait for Chris to send me the things. They're almost never explicitly classroom related
or funny,
but that's okay.
Wow. Okay, so first, time out. This is for the two of you and you who's watching and listening. You don't need a TikTok account to download the app and consume content. You can download TikTok and search for teacher TikTok and use education hashtags and find the content. You don't need an account. You also don't need to post even if you have an account. All right. I get followed by people all the time, whether it's the House of Ed Tech or my other TikTok account, where people follow you. They don't have any content. So you can consume. You don't always have to be, and yes, I'm going to say this, you don't always have to be a creator of content, but it's a place where you can get value. And I want to throw out real quick, if you have podcast recommendations or websites or blogs that you want to share with the community, and we can maybe put together a resource on our website, send us an email, podcastpd.com/feedback. You can send us a message. Let us know your favorite edu bloggers or your favorite education podcasts, or tweet at us and share them, and we will share the love and make sure that these first-year teachers get that information. So, yeah. All right. Before we get into the relationships, real quick, just want to let you know that, again, support for this episode and future episodes currently come from Streamyard. That's right, Streamyard. It's a live streaming production platform that you do this right in your browser. That's what we're using right now to bring this to the world. We've been producing Podcast PD for over a year now, since we started live streaming. And StreamYard lets us interview guests, take calls. So if you want to jump aboard and share some tips later on, you can go to podcastpd.com/join. And StreamYard makes it easy to visually brand your live stream. So it's great for schools. You can use it for free or you can pay. And you can stream to multiple places: YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. Yes, we're there. If you want to learn more about StreamYard, use our link, podcastpd.com/StreamYard. And thank you to StreamYard for sponsoring Podcast PD.
Yay. All right, so we've been talking a lot about relationships. We came up with 4 different relationship types that are a little more personal, and then we have those building relationships that just make your experience as an educator easier from the administrative point, meaning like the paper pushing or getting things done in your classroom. So where do we want to start? Do we want to start with those key building people, or those more personal curriculum, grade level people?
I'll be honest, Stacey. I disagree with how this is divided in the notes right off the bat. Because
there's that too.
At least in my school and from my experience, over the years I've been teaching, I've made really good friendships and relationships with custodians and secretaries and other support personnel. So I don't think we need to really divide it. We're just talking about how you as a first-year teacher needs to build relationships with the other human beings in the school.
And outside of the school.
Yes, absolutely. But let's start with, I think, colleagues is a very important place to begin. So as a first-year teacher, again, and I alluded to this earlier, you need to, again, we're talking about the way humans interact. we're not going to work looking for best friends. You might find a best friend, but that's not the objective. Your objective is to do your job. And to best do your job, you need to talk to people who have been doing the same thing you're starting out doing right now. So I say start with grade level, department, floor, left and right. So the other teachers, go introduce yourself, right? Ask questions. That's good for understanding how things are done in your school, because you're brand new. You weren't here last year. You don't know what the rules and regulations are, right? Vice Principal AJ didn't come down and administer the law to you yet. You haven't met him. He's too busy in his office, right? So how are you going to do this? You got to go and meet the people who you have access to.
Not nice. Yeah,
you metaphorical administrator, not real AJ. AJ's never in his office.
But you definitely want to build those relationships with the people that are doing what you will be doing. And chances are, they have a couple of years under their belt and their experiences vary. So seek out different opinions, right? Go to the veteran teacher who's been doing it a while. Doing it for a while does not necessarily mean that you're stuck in a certain way. I found that some of the most veteran teachers are also the biggest risk takers because they can take those risks, or because they've seen it all and now they want to do something different, right? I also find that they can tell you what will and won't work, right? Like, we did this a couple of years ago. It didn't work out for us. Here's why. Let's take this one element and see if we can incorporate it and do it a little differently. And I think sometimes, not all the time, sometimes veteran teachers get a bad rap just because some of them, there's that stereotype that they're checked out or they're ready for retirement or they're counting down. And, there might be some truth to that. I mean, I truly believe that most stereotypes exist for a reason, but don't be afraid to seek out that level of expertise. Don't be afraid to go to the newer teacher who's been in your shoes most recently, right? And can tell you what it's like and, some of their more recent pitfalls and what they've learned from those experiences as well.
Go make friends with the second year teacher.
And find AJ, a planning partner.
Yeah. AJ, what do you think?
I mean, connections and relationships are beyond important, right? Because you're going to see your team or your grade level or department or whatever you refer to them as. So they're going to be part of your everyday. So when we say relationships, we're not looking for you to go down there and get to know their life story in 30 seconds that you're going to be there, but find a way that you can connect to them so that they know that you're there for them and you're going to ask for help. I don't think there's anything wrong with making those connections and talking about the fact that you are going to need help. As Fawn just says right there. So teachers need to stop working in silos. I think that is a nice way to put it. I think too many of us think that we can handle it on our own and we don't need the extra help, or we don't need somebody else's hand-me-downs. We want to do it ourselves. We want to learn, but sometimes learn the hard way, becomes problematic. Maybe you're not understanding how to do specific lesson plans. Maybe you don't understand how to use specific technology. Ask.
And I think what you said there too about being there for them is key, right? You don't want to be the person who takes everything and is not giving back. So if you have an idea or, don't be afraid to speak up just because you are the new teacher.
But don't act like a know-it-all.
No, nobody likes to know it all. It doesn't matter how many years you have.
Yeah, and there's a fine line to walk there. And speaking of a fine line, we actually have a caller, so I'm going to bring him in right now, and let's say good evening to the Fonz from My Ed Tech Live right here, live and in living color. What's up, Fonz?
Hey, everybody. Love just being here with you guys. Love the conversation. Love everything that you guys are talking about. It's so important. And right now, just at least in the observations that I've made, teachers coming in are, number one, the ones that are already veteran teachers are still burnt out and they're just surviving and pushing through and at least feeling comfortable. But the new teachers, I mean, for a lot of them with zero experience, that just being overwhelmed and just seeing that some of them may not be getting that support or maybe they're thinking like, what did I get myself into? So I think everything that you're sharing is something that's great, that needs to be talked about and everything, because I think it's often overlooked. It's, at least the way that I've seen it, it's always like go, 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 and teachers just take off and roll with it, and whoever can hang on hangs on. And then regardless of, hey, if you're with us or not, like, we're going to do our own thing, because it's our scores that matter, it's our evaluations that matter. And those are some of the observations that I've seen, at least in these last 5 years being out of the classroom and looking in. I was thinking to myself, I was like, man, like, that was tough. It could be hard to survive out there sometimes now. Yeah. I was like, ooh, it really just shut everybody down now.
Now it's
like,
a mic drop. It is
Yeah.
hard. Like, I think also just being the outsider looking in, like I'm hearing empathy in your voice, recognizing that. And I think sometimes once we move out of the classroom, some people forget what it's like to have been in the classroom, and they forget. Some people forget in various stages very quickly, and then the other people hold on to that. And it sounds like you're holding on to that. And I think that that's a good thing for you in your coaching position, right? Coach, or are you an administrator?
No, instructional software specialist. So yeah. So yeah, but it's just one of those things, like you said, you observe, and I know, like, everybody means well in the positions that they do, but starting from the higher ups down, I think we could definitely do a better job in making those connections and really going out there and saying, okay, how else may we be able to support, other than, hey, here's the curriculum, here's what you need to follow. Make those connections, because it's often there's a divide. I think there was a comment that was made earlier by some of you, maybe in the difference, like there's that divide between, the teacher in the classroom and then administrator, and then you've got the next level. But we should all just be a cohesive team. And right now, what I observe, at least, there's a lot of moving parts, but they're not moving in unison. And, something needs to get done, a lot. And maybe it's just me. Maybe the problem is like being magnified a lot more, but if I'm seeing it, I'm thinking that there might be other people seeing it, or maybe I just really am holding that magnifying lens too close. But I'm just feeling them. I'm listening. I'm watching. I'm seeing them, and I'm like, wow, like, we could definitely do a better job in making those connections. And like you said, looking for supporting those first year teachers, and even supporting those veteran teachers, because they still need that support. And we can't just say, oh, they've got this down, everything's going to be fine, and move on like as if nothing happened. I mean, we need those connections. We really do.
Yeah, I think speaking of the veteran teacher too, like what I have found is that so much of the new pedagogical framework that your district might be adopting, or the new way of thinking, gets funneled into new teachers, because, they have first week training. They have, like, I don't know what it's like in your district, but in my district, I think it's like a 3-year program with like a graduate release, but there's a lot of PD pumped into those first 2 or 3 years that the veteran teachers never get. So like, unless they're having conversations with newer teachers, this new way of thinking, or this new program, or this new philosophy, or whatever, never reaches them unless someone makes the effort to make sure that they're also getting it.
Yeah. I like to get AJ's perspective on this, being a teacher straighter, always, is just kind of moving from that teaching role to the administrator role. And I know he doesn't like that word. I know he's heavily involved and goes and checks in on classrooms and everything. He's never in his office. All right, Chris. So, I just want to get his perspective as far as, or what are you seeing, or what are you looking forward to as far as the culture, and then just coming in and putting those new teachers at ease, or just reconnecting, I should say. What are some of the things that you've got in mind, or that maybe your district leaders are talking about?
No, I appreciate that, Fonz. Thank you for saying I'm not in my office. I'm in my office when I have to be in my office.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't mean to be in my office, Chris.
I didn't say you were in your office. I said
I know what you're trying to say.
Office.
No, I know what you're trying to say. But no, I think, Fonz, you're hitting on some great stuff before when you talk about support. I think when we look at our new teachers, I think for a lot of our veterans, we forget what it was like being a first year teacher. I think we forget, we forget what it was like because some of us had it easy, some of us had a struggle, some of us had a good mentor. And what they look at that is somebody who's a new teacher is supposed to have a mentor. They're supposed to have somebody who is assigned to them who's going to help them. I should not step on somebody's toes who is a mentor. That's what a lot of people think, right? So they don't want to get involved because they don't want to send different messages. So our new teachers are kind of stuck out there. For me, we have a couple of new teachers in our building this year, and I want to do a good job of being there for them and kind of coaching them like I would coach anybody else. We have 2 brand new teachers, and then we have 2 more new teachers to our building who came from somewhere else. So, it's going to be 2 different ways of coaching. One, I'm coaching to show them that this is what we're supposed to do as a teacher. And if you have questions, you have your mentors, but you can come to us as well. I don't know, as an administrator, if teachers are going to want to say that they're struggling. So I'll be there in classrooms to make sure that they are struggling. I can kind of pinpoint the things that they're struggling with. And for the teachers who are new to the building, I'm going to make sure that they feel good about the culture and the climate that we have. I think there's 2 different things you have to send the message about. For the young teachers, here's what teaching is like. Here's what you can do to help you along the way. And for the new teachers to the building, this is our culture. And this is where we can support you in getting to that point. So, it's playing 2 different roles, as a coach. You have your veteran players and you have your rookies. So, sometimes you're hands off, but I'm going to be very much hands on in how they fit into our school. Because I'm new too. So I can't play the game and say that I know everything, because I don't. But working together and showing that I'm there to support them and somebody in that building is there to support me, I think we're all going to go hand in hand and work very nicely.
Excellent. I think that's really important. I think you hit on those things. And I mean, right now we just finished our 2nd week of school, returning back face to face. So I think that's why I'm speaking. I know some of you haven't started yet, I believe. And so I'm just kind of, maybe it's a preview of what you might see. Honestly, I think one of the biggest things that I've noticed is that in the last, because of what happened in the last 18 months, there needs to be that reacclimation process. And even us as adults getting back into those buildings, the connection is very different. You may have been working with those teachers for a while, or, going and visiting different buildings, but it's just that there's a weird mood, where people are kind of, I guess, for those 18 months, I mean, you're there at home, you're in your own comfort level now, your own zone, your home office, whatever it may be. And now you're coming back and it's almost like, hi, kind of real awkward. It's taking a while for the teachers to reacclimate, but the kids, oh my goodness, they're having so much fun. They're back, they're laughing, they're just enjoying it. But I'm seeing that the adults are having a little bit more of a hard time kind of, again, getting back into the role and just making those connections again with one another. So I don't know, maybe just a little preview. Hopefully, things get better as you guys, or are better than at least what I'm seeing, when you guys return. But maybe just some things to kind of look out for and really go that little extra mile, like Stacey and AJ and you guys are saying, finding those new teachers and really, go out and, hey, how's making them feel welcome. And then the veteran teachers too, showing that appreciation, just reconnecting, just being that cheerleader, I guess, for everybody to come back. And the culture is very important for sure.
Right. And it can't be you got to be a cheerleader. It can't be hokey. It has to be a positive cheerleader because, I think I said it last week or said it somewhere else, that this year's going to be harder for our teachers than last year was. There's going to be a lot of eyes on our staff. There's going to be a target on their back from the public because a lot of people are unhappy with the rules put in place. It's not the teacher's fault. So it really has to be a celebration for the teachers, and every day has to be an acknowledgement of the good things and supporting them no matter what the situation is. So that's how the year has to go. It has to be supportive for everybody, but especially our new teachers, because if they have a target on their back as a new teacher, as fresh blood in the water, then we could lose our new teachers in a couple of months, or they could be one and done. So we really have to show them what it looks like. Look, teaching is not easy. Everybody kind of makes it out to be easy because we have summers off and all that nonsense. Teaching is not easy. And for the climate that we're in and the environment that we're in right now, it's definitely not easy for veterans or rookies. So, I think everybody has to be on the same page and everybody has to be working together, mentor or not a mentor.
Excellent.
I think what comes to mind for me is, I'll paraphrase Simon Sinek, and that is, you don't need a title to be a leader or a mentor, let's say. If we all looked out for each other, look out for the teacher across the hall, introduce yourself, things like that. If we all band together, which is what we should be doing anyway, pandemic, no pandemic, if we say we're in it for the kids, then, this is what should be happening all the time. So I borrow that, let's look to our left, look to our right, and just support the other people around us, no matter your role. Right. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Yeah, no, it's got to be a family. Like, and again, it can't be a hokey thing, but this is a family. You're working together, 180 plus days a year. You got to be in it together. And as JT over here, Josh Tovar, says, stronger together. That's what your school has to be. You have to be together. You have to be one cohesive unit. Everybody on the same page, taking steps together to improve for our students and for our community.
AJ,
Now,
do you have any other? Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Stacey. I'm sorry.
AJ, do you have any other tips for how teachers can build those relationships with administrators? Like, is it overwhelming to invite you into the classroom? Is it like, when would be a good time, right? Like, so, hey, I have, you know what I mean? Like, I just feel like everyone's going to have that sense of being overwhelmed with the return to this year. And, you want to tread lightly, you want to go slowly, but then, when is the right time to seek out an administrator's opinion? Or, also, like, what is the best way to build a relationship with an administrator from your point of view, either, when you were a teacher, or, like, what's worked best with you and your staff?
So this is why I don't like the term administrator, right? Because now it's go talk to your administrator. And when you talk to your administrator, you get nervous right away. Oh my gosh, what are they going to think of me if I can't handle this? Are they going to look down on me? Are they going to write this down? Are they going to put this in my file? Whatever. Like, this is why I couldn't stand the term administrator, because it's not like you can't talk to me. That's why I always say I'm still a teacher, whether I'm teaching teachers or teaching kids. I'm still a teacher. I think day one, you have to look at me as another person who's going to be there for the kids. Maybe I'm not teaching the class, but I'm going to be around. You're going to see me in the hallway constantly, Chris. You're going to see me walking through. I'm going to stop in your classroom, and I'm not there to observe you. I'm there to see what's going on. I'm there to see if you need anything. This is why I can refer to the fact that, you have a question, and now you're asking me, to respond to something that I'm familiar with. I don't want to just be blindsided. I don't want to have somebody come up to me and say, hey, can you help me with this? And then I have to say, okay, well, let's wait till tomorrow where I have to see the situation. I want to be active. So I think if you're a new teacher, build a relationship with your administrators day one, because that right there is going to set a tone that you show your administrators that you want to do well. You show them that you are there to learn and that you're there for the kids. I have some great teachers who really have embraced the fact that I'm just another person there and talk to me like I'm just another teacher, which I like, because I know throughout my career, I've had dicey relationships with some administrators because I've gone rogue and done things that I think are right for the kids. And I've done things in my classroom that other people are not. So when they come around, I'm like, oh, here we go. But it all worked out in the end. I built the relationships from that point. So I think it's better to kind of start it up front than have to work from the behind.
So what jumps out to me is, AJ, when you're describing what I would call servant leadership, right? A teacher of teachers, which I love. Problem is, not everybody subscribes to that or know where to find it in the dictionary. Raise your hand here on screen or let us know in the chat if you were ever told as a first-year teacher early in your career, don't ever go to your administrator if you're having a problem. And you probably heard that from your union or the veteran teachers, or, don't ever go to the admin. And there, again, that division is created that you're describing, AJ.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
When, go ahead. But that's just kind of what's run through my mind is I remember being told, If you're having a problem, don't ever go and tell the people who evaluate you that you're having a problem or you're struggling. So how do you build that relationship if that's what you're being told or that's the advice you're getting?
For me, I don't think that comes from the teacher. That's got to come from the administrator. You know, look, if a teacher all of a sudden is like, hey, I'm going to buddy up with you, in my mind, I'm just like, oh, something's going on. Something's wrong. You know, something's wrong. So I need to help this person right away. But I think it comes to the administrator to actually go get out of their comfort zone and really be part of a conversation and go out of their way to connect. You know, so you open up the door instead of somebody trying to come to you who may be nervous to talk to you.
Can I tell you something? So we have a new administrator in my building this year. And one of the first things she did, we have a weekly newsletter that went out, I think, twice so far this summer. But during the school year, it's weekly. And when she introduced herself, she kind of made like a little Bitmoji, like classroom. It was like one page. But just to introduce herself and like make some connections that she knew about, right? So like she's coming from a local district. She was in, you know, she worked as an adjunct professor at a local college, and she was actually the adjunct professor of one of our teachers. And so she made that connection. She made this other connection, and like so-and-so students attended my old school. And then what I really loved is it's what I do as a classroom teacher. She sent out a survey asking us questions. Just like, what are you looking forward to? What's a question that you have this year that you're uncertain about, right? And then the last thing she asked is, what is your favorite candy? And all I could picture was like the candy bowl that is in most administrators' classrooms or offices. And I was like, I'm going to tell her gum because I don't need any candy this year. And it's exactly what I did. But it was just like, I just love that she cared enough to put it out there that she wanted to get to know us on a personal level. So it was like, tell me about your family. Like, it wasn't just like, what's your favorite content area? It's like, tell me more about you. And like, I just thought it was really sweet and like first time I'd ever seen it. And this is my 20th year. So like, I thought that was nice.
And that opens the door, right?
And
That's what it is.
And it's memorable. And then she responded to everyone who responded to her survey. She responded with a personal email, which I thought was just, you know, it built, she's the first person to take that step to build a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And now I feel like I can knock on her door and go see her and ask her the thing and see if she has gum in her candy dish. Because I don't want to eat candy.
See if she's listening. Did you tell what is your favorite gum?
I like icebreaker gum. The little cubes are fun.
Go ahead, Fonz, you were saying.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, and you know, and I think that's great, you know, those connections. But you know, I've observed also the other side where they come in so friendly. They come in like, oh yeah, I'm here for you. I'm so open and this. And then the first time that you go up to them and say, hey, you know, and then they're like, whoa, what happened? Like, you know, like, and I was like shocked. I was like, oh, okay. That's odd because this isn't the way that you came off, you know, the perception that you gave off and everything. Like, hey, I'm here for you. I'm here and everything and so on and so forth. And then, yeah, I was like, that is very interesting. And it's interesting, you know, you get to know people, you know, and then you feel like, well, there goes my chance at talking to anybody. Like, who else can I go to for help now?
I think Cyndi Lauper sang a song called True Colors. Can't play it here on the podcast, but it's out there.
You have to do it. Fonz, I think that's really telling because some people do have that problem when it comes to turmoil or tough conversations because they have that relationship. They feel like they can't have that conversation of, you know, something's not going right. You know, they feel like they have to drop the hammer instead of having a conversation, being open and honest because, oh, I don't want to ruin the quote unquote friendship that I'm building. You know, that's not what it is. It's we just said it. It's family. It's a relationship. If something happens, if you're married, you're still going to get angry or upset with somebody. You still have to talk to them. You're not just going to like move out, right? Same thing in your school.
If I ever showed you some of the evals Caitlin has given me over the last, you know, bunch of years, I don't know if I'd still have a job.
Is it Strong or Danielson? How does she rate you?
I am for the most part effective in my marriage.
Oh, goodness. But yes, I mean, some people, they all of a sudden kind of shy away because they know they're going to have those conversations. And that's hard for some people. Tough conversations are tough for a reason, but you either embrace the conversation or you shy away.
For sure.
Now, Stacey, before we started recording this episode, you let us know that you had some time restraints. So rather than cut the episode short, let me pass the mic to you so we can get your thoughts. And if you need to drop off and, you've got your commitment, you do what you got to do, we'll wave the magic wand when the time comes. So which relationship do you want to get your thoughts in on before you have to go?
I really think the parent-student one goes hand in hand. So I just want to share, like you guys were talking about, just like celebrating those big things. Our kids found out on Friday who their teachers were going to be. And by Saturday morning, I had my first student email. She was very excited. She was like, but where's the supply list? Apparently the link wasn't working from the district. And then I was like, well, here's the Google site. You can find it here, but here's also the welcome letter and whatever. And she was like, your site's not working. So like just her working through that with me was very helpful. And I think that like, it was just very sweet. And then I already had a parent email my co-teacher and me just saying that she's very excited for the school year. She's going to head over to the Google site, but she just wanted to drop a note saying that, what we're doing is very brave and courageous work. And we've been through a lot. And if there's anything that she can do for us. And I was like, oh, after like these, and it's like, I have to say my families last year were fabulous, but you see it everywhere. You just see the vitriol and you see some of the less than pleasant rhetoric that's out there. And it was just nice to get my first parent email was just a celebration of the work that we do. And I could have hugged her through the email. So I really I look forward to meeting them. Our back to school night this year will be virtual again, but I think I'm going to do everything I can in those first few days to make sure that the kids make the room what they want it to be. And then we record them being part of the room since the parents won't necessarily get to see like the artifacts that kids necessarily create for the first night, that first introduction to parents being back in the building. But I also just like the opportunities that being virtual for those evening parental experiences affords, because, this is like last year was one of the first years where I had everyone have the opportunity to come because it wasn't time off of work and it wasn't finding a babysitter. I teach 5th grade. So, they tend to have little siblings and parents don't necessarily feel comfortable leaving their 5th graders alone either. And it was just, so I hope that, we talked a lot about lessons learned. I hope that this virtual Zoom thing or Google Meet, whatever it is that you're using, becomes something that we can use as necessary, not all the time, but as opportunities present themselves. But I just want to celebrate that little positive note. I read that to my husband this morning. I was like, I got my first parent email. He's like, am I going to like it? I was like, I'll read it. So big smiles over in the Linda's household about that those first contacts. It was good. So I just say whatever you can do to make your kids and parents feel like they are part of your community because you're there for them. You're there for children. And by extension, you're there with their parents, right? And their parents, whatever kind of relationship you build with their parents will impact the relationship you have at school with their kids. Mm-hmm. And I say parents, and I really mean families. I have to change my language a little bit. But just knowing that they're a direct conduit to the students that you teach every day. So they go hand in hand.
Absolutely.
And I do have to get going. I have to go get that kid from work. It's the last Sunday of summer work. But thanks, gentlemen. Fonz, I hand over the wand. You get to do the magic sign off, and I'm actually going to listen this Wednesday.
Jeez. Whoa.
Jeez. Okay.
Yep.
Bold.
All right. See you guys later. See you guys on Clubhouse.
Stacey.
Bye.
Not all of us.
All right. Just us gents to bring it home. So, Fonz, students, parents, what are your thoughts? Advice for new teachers, and what does that look like?
Oh, well, just advice for new teachers. I think you've hit on several. Is really don't be scared to ask questions. Ask away, and even though you may see that teacher across the hall maybe just a little bit busy and things of that sort, just take into account. It's not that they're ignoring you. It's just that sometimes, and this is what I'm seeing back in the classroom, get back into that comfort zone. They're in those four walls again, muscle memory. So it's like, I got to get this done and get this done. So there's always that planning period. Don't be shy to ask questions, because these teachers that are there, they've been through it. They can answer all your questions fairly simple, and just make you feel at ease. So for sure, don't be scared. Make those friends, and also just really make friends with the custodians. That's number one. Always, the custodians were amazing to me in my first year. And, those relationships still lasting when I even go back into those buildings where I used to work at. I still see the same custodian. We have conversations. We talk about how their family's doing and things of that sort. And they're extremely helpful when you get those classroom emergencies, whether it's a student that might have had some sort of accident, there was a spill, there was something. They're always going to be there for you and help you out. And, also just really seek outside of your district some of that professional development, professional growth. Read, never stop learning. Try and fit in what you need to prep for your curriculum. Find some time for yourself. Set that boundary with work emails and things of that sort, and set aside maybe 30 to 45 minutes where you can really seek some outside PD, whether it's through a podcast, whether it's through a blog. Get on EduTwitter, ask away, get free resources, get connected, because that will definitely go a long way. And even to this day, if there's a question I can't answer, like AJ was saying, I'll go ahead and message people that I've connected with and say, hey, what do you think about this? Or is this something you're experiencing? What are your thoughts? And then I can come back with some answers and, also be better equipped to answer those types of questions. So just connect. And that's definitely very important. And that's the best advice that I can give from my 16th year in education now.
A couple of things I wanted to throw out. I was talking with my wife. She is a high school librarian, and I asked her what some of her advice is, and she also brought up the idea of, become friendly with the custodians, treat them with, the utmost respect. And she reminded me that what she does is, come the different holiday times, she feeds them. She will bake, she will bring in, she'll call down the daytime custodian and say, here's this big tray of whatever, cookies, she'll do all sorts of stuff. Bring it down, make sure the nighttime guys have it. She'll leave holiday cards for the people who take care of the library, and then she has found not ironically, but happily, that whenever she needs something, they're there for her. She needs something moved, furniture, different things like that. So definitely take care of your support personnel, because then they will take care of you. Right. And it was, again, we talk about relationships, and Fonz, you mentioned reading. You want to build relationships? Everybody needs to go and read or reread How to Win Friends and Influence People. That entire book by Dale Carnegie is all about building relationships and how to make connections with people. So, and also to go back to Simon Sinek, if you're going to ask somebody how they're doing, you better be prepared to stop and listen to their answer to the question. Not, hey, how you doing? Oh, well, I really don't have time to listen to whatever's going on, but, oh, hey, AJ, I heard your dog wasn't feeling well. How's that? Oh, you had a baby. How's the baby? Like, talk about these things, and then remember when you talked about these things with people. And my wife even, literally write it down, have a conversation, go have a Google Doc, write down, especially if you're a new teacher, you're going to see a lot of faces, get a lot of names, right? Write down who I spoke with, what they taught, keep notes for yourself, right? And then every so often, maybe once a week, go look at those notes of the people you met today or this week, and then seek them out and just follow up. Again, relationship building.
That's what matters most. That's what I make it through a year.
Yeah. AJ, thoughts?
I got to be honest. I think Fawn just hit it on the head. Like, everything is so important. Like especially our custodians, especially our secretaries, the crossing guards. Like, these folks you're going to see every day. Like, be meaningful, be respectful, be kind. Go out of your way sometimes. New teachers, don't just hang out in your classroom. Be active. Visit the main office. Say hello. I think that's a recipe for a strong year.
AJ, can I throw a question at you?
Sure, why not?
Sorry, never mind. I'm going to throw a question at you.
There you go.
We've done, a full episode and now like 95% of another episode about advice for the first year teacher, right? But you're at the relative beginning of being, first and a half year, second year administrator.
Teacher Strader.
Teacher Strader. I don't even know. What are you looking to do as you're still at the beginning of this part of your career?
What am I looking to do?
Looking to do, learn. Let us get inside the head of you for a second as a teacher strader.
Dude, that's a completely other episode.
Well, maybe that leads us into episode 104. It's called continuity.
Great. No, I think I'm in the same boat. I think first and foremost, I'm just going to keep trying to make connections, but I get to do it with more teachers and I get to do it with more kids. So I think that's where it starts for me. I think getting to know people on different levels, both as an educator and as a person, I think that's where I'm going to find my success. But there's so many things I want to do. I don't even know where to begin, in this closing out of an episode to say, here are the things I want to do for the coming year.
Can you give us one goal you have for the year?
One goal I have
next episode.
One goal I have for the year is kind of the idea of establishing restorative practices for our school and positive behavior and noticing and recognizing positive things in our students to help them get through a day and understand that there are people there for them.
Nice. Good stuff. Fonz, before we wrap things up and you wave Stacey's magic wand, why don't you talk about my EdTech life for a minute here? Let the people know who don't.
All right. Well, thank you. Well, yeah, guys, my EdTech Life podcast that I host, that I do weekly shows on Saturdays. And the premise of the show is, again, very similar to what Chris does and what other podcasters do, is just connecting educators, creators, one show at a time. And but more on the side of, having those actual conversations and getting to know our guests, bringing that human side, what inspired them to be a teacher, getting to know them from that background, and then slowly building up to what they're great at, what their passions are, what they're doing, and what they continue to do to change or be effective education leaders. And it's just a wonderful, just really getting to know people at that deep level. And it goes back to relationships. Like Chris said, if you're going to talk to somebody, you make time to listen. And it's amazing how many people, right now that may be watching or listening, know some of these great edu leaders that are out there. And when you hear a show, or at least one of the shows, like you find out like, wow, I didn't know that they used to be a chemical engineer, like my great friend, Brian Carpenter. And then you find some interesting facts. Like I had Josh Buckley, Mike Earnshaw, that, they're administrators now, former punk rockers, scenesters, skateboarders turned educators.
Oh no. Fonz froze there, huh? Oh no, we lost Fonz.
There we go. Sorry, guys.
All right.
I don't know what happened there. But anyway, so it's just one of those things, guys. It's just a great podcast. Come get to know people, educators, leaders at that personal level, and then also get to hear the great things that they're working on and really get to share their passions. And that's what it's all about.
It is a great podcast, and it is a good listen. I love the way you interact with people. So I think everybody should be checking out your podcast. You want to plug when you record it for those who want to watch it live?
Yeah, actually. So we go live every Saturday, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. You can catch all our previous episodes at myedtech.life. So you can check, watch or listen to all the previous episodes. And again, just thankful also to Chris and, being part of the EduPod network. And it's just amazing to be able to connect with such wonderful leaders such as yourselves that are going out above and beyond, bringing great content for educators like myself to continue to learn from and continue to connect with other folks as well.
Awesome. We will consider that our recommendation for this episode. Stacey had one, but she's not here to give it. And AJ and I reading the description wouldn't do it justice, because when you're recommending a podcast, it comes from the
You got to
heart.
be
So
in it. Yep.
Got to be in it. So, and the one she wrote down here, I've never listened to. So Stacey will be back with that recommendation next time. So go check out My EdTech Life. And the website again is myedtech.life.
Yes, sir. myedtech.life. Go check it out.
Available where you get fine podcasts. And even maybe if you listen to crappy podcasts, it's there too. But not Fonz's podcast. All right. Before you wave the wand, we want to thank our executive producers. So thank you very much to Mike Brilla, Stephanie Scrocky, and Sandy Hartman. They are our current executive producers. If you'd like to become an executive producer, you can go to podcastpd.com/executive producer, and you can show your support on a monthly or a yearly basis. All executive producers get a special sticker, and if you support the show for a year, we will send you a mug and a t-shirt and the magical sticker. And again, you can go to podcastpd.com/executive producer if you are getting value from these conversations and this podcast. Fonz, take us home.
All right, guys. So I don't know. What does Stacey do? I've never made it to the end, like to the very end.
The truth comes out.
The truth
Hey,
comes out.
I
It's all right,
watch you
Fon.
guys. I'm getting my walk on and everything, and then I'm just
Appreciate
like, all right,
that.
it's go time.
Go ahead, Chris. You got to do it then.
All right. Say good night, AJ.
Oh,
Good-
sorry. Good night, AJ. Good night, Chris, and good night, everybody. Now that sounds familiar. AJ,
There
make
you
sure
go.
that you get some candy. Don't forget to get some candy.
I now need a bowl of candy for my
now you get a
teachers
bowl of candy.
and gum.
All right. There you go, guys. So good night, everybody. I'm so sorry, Stacey.
Sorry, she doesn't listen anyway.
All right. So it's somewhere in there's a cut, and there's a podcast episode
So
in
good.
there. Fonz, thanks for hopping aboard, man. We are still live, so we just got a couple minutes here. But thanks for hopping aboard, man. Thanks for calling in.
No, man, I really appreciate it. I guess it's just really a topic that's been in my heart like this last week, and of course, second week of being face to face, and just wanted to just share with you guys. I didn't realize that you had not started yet, so just kind of wanted to kind of give you at least a little bit of my perspective, what I've seen these last 2 weeks, and at least give you a preview. Hopefully, maybe like that way, at least prepare you for certain things, and just to kind of check out and observe those things, and that may or may not be happening, but at least it's something there.
No, man, it's perfect because like I kind of forget what it's like to have a day one. I'll be honest with you. My day one last year was at a new school. It was virtual, and now the school I'm at, I came in October, so everything was already rolling. So I haven't had a day one in a while. So I'm looking forward to what it's going to be like.
Yeah, this year on day one, I got to put pants on.
Like dress pants.
Yeah, like actual pants.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I was in school for a portion of the year last year, so for me, Fonz, it's, I don't know if you heard the part where I said I've got 164 students to start the year this year. So ready to hit the ground running on September 8th. Ooh, that's going to be different because last year the most kids I had in the classroom with me when we went back in was 3.
Wow.
And now I have a room full of, I don't know, 25, 30.
It's going to be a culture
Yeah.
shock for everybody. Got to get
Yeah.
your teaching
Yeah.
legs back here in New Jersey.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's it.
I have my teaching legs. It is what it is.
Yeah, you're gonna get to know what teacher tired is because you'll be you'd be out of shape. And I mean, getting back, even for myself, now that the teachers are back and visiting buildings, and then talking more, and I'm like, wow, like it feels so new. And so yeah, it was pretty interesting. But like I said, the one thing that I really loved, gentlemen, is these last 2 weeks that I've been on campuses. Man, just the kids. The kids are, You know, they're interacting. They're in the classroom. They're answering questions. They're a little talkative, but I don't blame them because man, they've been away from each other for about 18 months. So they're back. They're talking. They're acclimated or acclimating, and that social emotional learning that's taking place also as well. Very important, but for the students. But we can't forget, and you know, AJ, you as a teacher trader, hey, that's a very, very important component for teachers. I mean, I know we need to focus on the kids, but we definitely need to make sure that we focus on teachers as well, for sure.
Absolutely. It's gonna be a hard year.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a hard year.
But we're up for the challenge.
Yeah, but AJ, I just encourage you to keep blogging, my friend. That notebook of yours is magic. You've got so much stuff there that you can definitely keep blogging and sharing some great content. Thanks, and Chris, Chris, you're everywhere, Chris. So I admire that, man. I don't even know where you find extra hours out of your day to be where you're at, man.
See, like people, like you say that, other people tell me that, but day to day, I feel like, all right, people tell me I'm everywhere, but day to day, I feel like I am nowhere.
No,
well,
I mean,
nowhere. I am nobody.
Oh, but these days you just have such a great presence. That's why. So that's good, and so we can always catch you on something, and that's really good. And then of course AJ too. We need to make sure we keep blogging, man. Collaborating.
I'm down for that. You know I am. I just need to just do it. You know, I don't always come down here. That's my problem. I don't always come down here.
You could blog anywhere, AJ. It's 2021.
It's true. You're right.
And I know people who like to write a blog, and then they'll record that blog and they speak and they release it as a podcast. Reflective, even.
I never even thought about that. I have some blogs, and I never even thought about putting just audio and reflecting on those. So you just gave me a great idea, Chris, to repurpose.
Here you go, Fonz. When you do it though, don't just read your blog post, because there are people out there who their podcast episodes, they are just reading their blog posts and they're not even changing the verb tenses or like the way it's written as a blog post to be spoken word. So put that little extra effort in. People notice.
No, for sure. For sure. Most definitely.
Yeah. I need to yell at the Yankees. You need to stop making this live, please.
All right. So thanks everybody for coming out and watching. AJ and I are going to now bitch about the Yankees.
Good night, AJ. Good night, Chris.